1,000 people were asked to describe the fear that terrifies them the most. Chances are that you share one or more of these fears. Here's what they said. 240 had a fear of spiders. These species of 8-legged creatures have venomous members like the funnel web spider, with venom twice as deadly as cyanide. When you consider that some can drop on you or leap at you silently to deliver that deadly payload, it's no wonder some of us freeze at the mere thought of one. 300 had a fear of snakes. With 4 of its species among the top 10 most venomous creatures in the world, that isn't scary enough. There are snake species like the African rock python that, while not venomous, can eat crocodiles and monkeys whole. 280 had a fear of heights. Many of us are scared that high places can bring with them fatal falls, even with safety gear and rails. And yet some, like Alex Honnold, are seemingly immune to this fear, as they defy death itself without safety gear for recreational pursuits. 90 had a fear of flying, a personal fear of mine. And while my logical mind knows that flying is a safe form of travel, my irrational mind thinks of the hunk of metal I'm flying in with man-made components ready to fail at any moment, and me spiraling to my certain demise. 60 had a fear of dogs. For most of us, dogs are loyal companions and friends. For others, they are the demonic embodiment of Stephen King's Cujo, unstable natures as documented in countless dog attacks each year. 30 had a fear of cats. For cat people, felines, even closer companions than dogs, and yet for some they are every bit as ferocious and unpredictable as their wilder cousins. For still others, they are the mystery that steals your breath at night, and the reason people die in their sleep. 90 had a fear of storms. We have all either seen or experienced terrible storms, but for some, storms are apocalyptic events from which there is no returning, and are therefore to be avoided at all costs. 100 had a fear of needles. Many of us don't like needles, but still, there are those that are so terrified at the thought of a needle drawing their blood that the anxiety caused by such an event can stop their hearts. 110 had a fear of the dark. Darkness, one of humanity's primal fears, and one that most of us grow out of when we reach adulthood. For those that don't, though, darkness becomes the gateway of death and doom, with every corner hiding unseen terrors. 70 had a fear of clowns. Harmless, vibrant, makeup-clad comedians to some, but for others, clowns with their uncanny valley faces, betraying usually only a single very fake-looking emotion, are creepy monstrosities that are the stuff of their nightmare fuel. 150 had a fear of insects. Some have a fear that extends beyond spiders and encompasses the whole realm of creepy crawling and flying denizens. For these people, the thought of being swarmed, cocooned, and eaten by them blurs into a whole new realm of terror. 230 had a fear of public speaking. Some of us may be nervous to give a toast at a wedding or a business presentation, but for those with this anxiety, it can be so crippling that the fight or flight instinct shuts their body down completely. 100 had a fear of vomiting. We all may have been at a kegger, well, some of us have, where some Chad projectile vomits all over people and we laugh. For someone with the fear of vomiting and spewing chunks, it can be so strong that they poison themselves by not allowing the body to purge naturally. 60 had a fear of blood. Blood, literally the stuff of life, but to someone who fears it, it is a fountain that when leaving the body, even as a droplet, can make them feel weak. 100 had a fear of strangers, and we usually think of this fear on a national level by its proper label, but imagine being so fearful of strangers that a simple trip to the grocery store feels like breaching a trench in a war. 60 had a fear of clusters of small holes. Holes, the drain plugs of the universe, whether manifested as black holes or as whirlpools. And yet for those with this affliction, every hole is the bringer of chaos to order. 210 had a fear of diseases. This fear of diseases is like hypochondria, but amped up to an 11. Every fluid, every breath, every bit of dirt, an opportunity for a terminal disease to find its way into their body and methodically end them. 120 had a fear of large bodies of water. Well, we may all be a bit wary of being in bodies of water so vast that even swimming won't save you, but for those with this, only complete sedation could get them near to what to them represents the bottomless, crushing depths. 30 had a fear of bright lights. Well, some with this fear are afraid of bright indoor lights, others are afraid of the sun itself and are convinced that every exposure is skin cancer getting a foothold onto them. 17 had a fear of enclosed spaces. Most of us would be terrified at the thought of being in a small airtight coffin and buried alive, but for some the fear of enclosed spaces is so great that they can't even walk through a hallway or into a small room with no windows. 30 had a fear of animals. For those with this fear, it goes beyond insects, reptiles, and pets to include animals in their myriad of different forms, each of them representing mobile and primal terror. 130 had a fear of fire. We know fire can sear flesh from bone and end our lives, but having this fear can mean not being able to enter a room where even a small candle burning is present at a crackling campfire. Forget about it. 50 had a fear of being touched. We're not all huggers or handshakers, I'm not, but those with this fear don't like even being accidentally touched or brushed, or it brings great discomfort. 110 had a fear of dentists. Now, many of us don't like going to the dentist, but imagine fearing dentists so much that each becomes akin to a devilish cabal figure that gains immense pleasure from grinding deep into your root as chunks of tooth fly throughout the room, with you so sedated you can't do anything about it. 50 had a fear of doctors. Take the fear of dentists and apply it to doctors, members to these people of the same secret lizard society, only with an even more likely ability to prescribe you things that slowly kill you or, putting you under, perhaps to harvest your organs for their cabal. 70 had a fear of hospitals. Those with this fear cannot enter the home base of the cabal, the place where illness and death fester and linger, waiting to include you in its ever-present death grasp. 60 had a fear of driving. Some people don't like driving or are so bad they are a liability anytime they get behind the wheel. But those with this fear, like YouTuber Kid Behind the Camera, physically and mentally are driven to terror at the thought of merely driving. 160 stated they had no fears. Let us know in the comments which, if any, fear you have.